Robert Hayner has been in prison for 25 years after he pled guilty to murdering 20-year-old Shorty Owen. He's been denied parole 4 times, seemingly because of his opposition to his release from the victim's family. But did the Owen family go too far in keeping Hayner in prison? And where do we draw the line on justice? Our Matt Hoffman went to prison himself to find out.
When Robert Hayner walked into his 4th parole hearing at the Crossroads Correctional Center in March, he was expecting the same results as the other 3 times, a denial. But the latest time was not like the others. Gary Hayner, Robert's cousin, explains.
It's a little intimidating. You walk in, there's a partitioned area where the victim's family is sitting, and then the smaller area, there's a couple persons sitting in front of you, which was part of the parole board, and then off to the right was a 6th person that was, I assumed, and it appeared that was taking notes.
That person taking notes, a family member of the victim, Carrie Owen.
A few days after I found out I got a setback, I started thinking about it, and it just struck me odd, the last name. So I started putting 2 and 2 together.
The Missouri Department of Corrections denied repeated requests for an on-camera interview for this story, but did send a statement by email. They contend that because Owen did not speak at the parole hearing and that all other procedures were correctly followed, there is no conflict of interest that exists. Robert Hayner doesn't agree. He says just the presence of a family member might be enough to sway the board.
Well, I would say it is a conflict of interest because, I don't know if she didn't say anything to them outside of the hearing.
There's another irregularity with the 4th hearing. Robert Hayner says in each of his previous 3 hearings, his denial took 6 to 8 weeks to process. The last time, it took 1 day.
It's just hard to believe that that's just a coincidence. My co-defendant that's at another prison went up for parole a week after me, and it took him like 6 to 8 weeks to get his answer back.
According to news press reporting at the time, it was in February of 1994 that Robert Hayner, Sean Hoffman, and Ramsey Pickens were cruising the North Belt Highway looking for someone to rob. They found Stephen Shorty Owen talking to his girlfriend in front of a pizza joint. At that point, Hoffman pistol whipped Owen, and the 3 forced themselves into Owen's truck. It was then that the trio forced Owen to drive his truck here to the corner of Douglas MacArthur Drive and Highland Avenue. Owen's body was later found by a railroad employee. What happened after Hoffman's shot can only be described as sinister. With Owen still alive, more shots were fired. Shorty Owen's mother, Veronica Nichols, declined an on-camera interview for this story, but in a letter to Buchanan County Judge Daniel Kellogg, she explains what she thinks happened next. Quote, the first man shot him at the back of the head, and he fell to his knees, still alive. The second man shot him in the temple after hearing Owen mumble, "You busted my stitches," or "I need stitches." The next man then shot Shorty in the forehead, end quote. But just like at the last parole hearing, the morality of the original crime is in dispute. Robert Hayner admits he fired the gun second and that he's legally guilty of murder, but maybe has less guilt than his co-conspirators, something that he says wasn't considered by the parole board.
I always said that I believed I missed. I was the only one that fired a shot at a distance. The other 2, when they fired their shots, fired at almost point-blank range.
For so much more on this story, including the full prison interview with Hayner, parole documents, Nichols' letter, and much more, head to our website at newspressnow.com. Matt Hoffman, News Press Now.